Okay, we'll call the special meeting of council to order at 4:01. Just for the general public's information, we have Councillor Dennis Foley online, and we have an agenda before us just to explain to the general public as well in regards to the rules around a special meeting of council. The agenda has been set. The agenda is what we will deal with in regards to the resolution and the information that we have before us. Unlike a normal regular meeting of council, there is no question period, there is no inquiries. We only have an agenda to deal with as per the special meeting request, which was provided 48 hours notice to council and to the general public. So with that, we have the agenda before us. I need a motion to adopt the agenda before us. Councillor Beyer, Councillor Ellis, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Mr. Sepitelli for the resolution. Basically, first I'll read the resolution and then go to the supporting documentation. Resolution 2016161, moved by Councillor Beyer, second by Deputy Mayor Valentino. Whereas the City of Thompson's handy van has exceeded its life cycle and is in need of replacing, and whereas there is an opportunity for the City of Thompson to submit an application for federal provincial cost sharing funding for the purchase of the handy van under the Public Transportation Infrastructure Fund Program, PTIF, with a deadline of August 26, 2016, and whereas the City of Thompson has budgeted $125,000 for the purchase of the handy van, now therefore be resolved that Council authorize administration to support an application for funding under the Public Transportation Infrastructure Fund, PTIF, for the purchase of the handy van. We'll go to Mr. Sepitelli for support.
So some of the background as part of this process of the 2016 budget. The city had submitted an application to the province for 50-50 funding for the purchase of a handy van vehicle. We were just notified last Friday that we were unsuccessful. As part of that process, they had directed us to apply under the Canada-Manitoba Infrastructure Program, the Public Transportation Infrastructure Fund specifically, which is a tripartite grant made up of 50% from the federal government, 25% from the provincial government, and 25% from the municipal government. The initial deadline was slated for August 26. That has since been extended to September the 2nd. As part of that application process, one of the requirements is that they require a resolution approved by council approving the application and project. And due to the timelines that we initially were working under with the August 26th submission date, the special meeting of council was called in accordance with the organizational and procedural bylaw.
Thank you. We'll go to the mover, Councillor Beyer. Anything to add?
Only that I certainly hope this application is successful. I think we are grossly in need of that handy van, and it's unfortunate that we did not, we're not successful on the first go around, but I certainly hope we are for this one, and it will certainly be part of our budget discussion. So that's all I can say. Is otherwise, I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Matichuk, do you have a question? No. Councillor Smoke?
Yes. Do we have any idea first of when we're going to hear back from this grant? Did they give us any deadlines of when they're come back?
At this point, they haven't given us any indication as to sort of when that assessment will be done. We're in constant contact with them, so definitely we'll be following up to ensure the timely turnaround. I know that a number of grant programs that we've applied for this year has been very frustrating from the timelines and the process. So I'm hoping sort of a speedy resolve to this, given what their deadline is, that we'll hear back imminently, but we definitely will continue to follow up with them.
Secondly, when we were doing the budget last year, October, when we started, we did say if we weren't successful with grants, we were going to put money aside, so that we ended up with a handy van for this winter. Here we are the end of August, so are we going to follow through with that, or do we know?
Well, I think it's imperative that with most granting programs, though, if you are expending funds prior to approval, then those costs are not eligible, and this would be the case as well. So I think it's likely prudent to wait at least to determine when they're looking at this, what the turnaround time is. I mean, one of the benefits of this program, which was we were made aware of that we're eligible just earlier this week, is the fact that it's 50% funding from the feds, 25% from the province, and 25% from municipalities, whereas the initial grant that we had submitted to the province was based on $50. So if approved, I mean, obviously this would be more cost effective for the city of Thompson.
Oh, no, I agree. We wait
Yeah.
to hear this in a timely manner. It's just that if it's not approved, we as council is going to have to sit down and decide what we're going to do.
Mayor Betsy?
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Foley.
Okay, my concern is that, if we go ahead with this grant, we, don't purchase anything, we go out with the grant and do the application, and then we get months down the road and we, say for, you know, unfortunately, we don't get the approval and they recommend another grant. Are we gonna keep going down this road, or when are we gonna say we have the money, let's make the purchase? We're already months behind schedule for when we should be having this the handy van, and I believe with the timeline process that you know, if we end up waiting another couple of months, that we won't even get the handy van in for the school year.
So from the city's perspective, just to speak briefly about the process, last year in budget deliberations for 2016, we approved $125,000 for the purchase of the handy van. So we will be buying a handy van in 2017. Unfortunately, as Mr. Septelli has outlined, the first grant program that we applied for, we became ineligible for it, or we were denied. And we were waiting for that decision because, as Mr. Septelli has outlined, through the granting process, funds expended prior to a grant approval aren't eligible for reimbursement. So you actually have to have the grant approval before you can issue a PO and buy an item under the granting program. So with this second application, again, unfortunately, it pushes the delivery of a handy van to our community back to ensure that we qualify for funding. But let me assure the general public that we will be purchasing a handy van as approved through budget deliberations last year. The issue is, are the taxpayers paying $125,000 for it, or up to $125,000 for it? Or is the federal government going to subsidize 50%, the province 50%, or 25%, and the taxpayers of Thompson paying 25%? So that's what we're waiting for. We're doing our due diligence. Unfortunately, our hands are tied in the process. We are on top of it in regards to dealing with the government in getting the decisions made, and as the deadline has been extended to September 2nd, I can assure you we will be calling on September 3rd to make sure that they have our application, and 2, to get the approval process through the rings that everybody has to jump. But let me assure the general public that as per our budget deliberations last year, we included the purchase of a handy van in the 2016 calendar year. So that will happen. It's just a matter of if it's 100% funded by the taxpayers or 25% funded by the taxpayers. And the process has to take care of the process.
Mayor Betsy?
Yes, Councillor Foley.
Sorry, so my next question is, if we go ahead and approve the holding off of doing the purchase and going through the application process for this one, if this grant does not get approved, will we then be going ahead and purchasing, or will we be looking at another grant?
We budgeted $125,000, so we have the money to pay for the handy van to go out for tender for the handy van. So one way or the other, it's a matter of how much of the taxpayer is going to pay for the handy van. Mr. Septelli?
I understand that, and that was repeated. But my question is, because we already went through this process and we said that if we weren't approved on this specific grant, that we'd be making the purchase. So now that we have an opportunity for another grant, we're going to look towards getting that grant. However, if we do not get this other grant, are we going to be looking at another grant, or will we be saying, okay, we went after 2 grants, now it's time to make the purchase? Because I don't want to go through this grant process, and for, you know, there's a chance that we might not get it, there's a chance we will, but if we don't get it, I don't want us to be looking at another one, which will delay us even further down the line. It's, especially especially when the handy van currently isn't in operation at all.
And I agree with your comments, and we will make every effort as a city to ensure that the process is followed and pushed from a funding perspective. But you're right, at the end of the day, council will have to approve a purchase order for, or an RFP for a handy van. And as I've stated, we've currently provided for that in the calendar year of 2016. And right now, we're in a wait and see, but at the end of the day, yes, we'll have to make a decision that we've exhausted all our opportunities, and we will go ahead with that purchase. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Matichuk and then Deputy Mayor Valentino.
Just wondering, is there a way to do this on a rental purchase where we can rent one so it can be ordered right away and then take on the purchase once the grant has been approved?
I think Mr. Sepatelli will explain in regards to costs incurred prior to grant approval. I'll just verify with Mr. Sepatelli.
In order to do that, we would still have to follow our procurement policy for the actual, whether it's a rent-to-own or lease-to-own process. We would still have to go through that procurement process and get the appropriate bidders on the tender that's being put forth. But as indicated before, that any monies expended prior to approval of a grant would not be eligible for that portion of funding.
Deputy Mayor Valentino?
I would like to ensure that the school district is informed of the decision that we were unsuccessful in the first round of this grant application. As, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they are the larger user group of the handy van and don't want to participate in the funding. So if we could keep that communication to them that we were unsuccessful.
Make them aware. Any other questions or comments? With that, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Mr. Foley? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Valentino, Councillor Smook, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.